Do you have a license for that? Well, welcome back, everybody. Time went really quickly, I think. For me, anyhow. I don't know about you. It's been almost, 6 weeks since. So it's good to be back. One of the things I was going to encourage you to do is don't rely on this Friday night class to sustain you at all. We take a long break during the winter, and then we take another break during the summer. And if you're going to, I don't know the word, make progress, advance, use this teaching effectively, you really need to find a way to create your own way place, your own bodhimanda, your own monastery within the space of your own life. Sometimes this is as simple as just creating a space in your apartment or house that's apart from everything else, where you go to and disconnect, unplug from everything. At the next stage, it's a kind of state of mind that you can maintain that unpluggedness while you're still doing things effectively. And you're in a traveling bodhimanda then. That's a little more difficult to achieve. So at the beginning, it's important to reconnect to your spiritual nature in a daily way. So we do this every Friday night, but hopefully throughout the week, sometime in the day, you have a regular time that you can do a practice, whether it's bowing, sitting, quietly reciting, to yourself, by yourself, through yourself, for yourself, with no other thoughts and no other distractions. And hopefully, have a text like this that you can pick up and do maybe just 10 minutes every day. So 10 or 15, 20, 30 minutes of some practice, and then in looking at this text is really how this starts to take shape in your life and shape your life, if that's what you want to do. So there has to be a daily purchase with this. It's like every day you eat, every day we sleep, every day we put on clothes and probably bathe. Every day in a regular way, there has to be a dose of this quietness and study if it's going to have any effect. So we do it on Friday night. It's kind of a model. We sit for 45 minutes, then we investigate the text together in 45 minutes. If you can do an hour and a half in a busy life, wow, that's really great. But if you can't, find a time and space that you can do it regularly. That will make such a big difference. After a while, it will become very normal for you. I mean, at the beginning, it's the most difficult thing about sitting is not sitting, it's making up your mind to sit. When you're actually sitting, it's actually pretty easy. It's getting to that place in a regular way that's the difficulty. So what happens is, inside, our habit energies, our tendencies, you could say our bad habits and faults, klesha, or asava, called outflows. These deep habitual tendencies compete with our mind for the way, compete with this mind, this aspiration to connect with our spiritual nature and to see things really clearly and realize our deepest potential. There's a tension there. And so while there's that tension, at the beginning, the resistance to do this can be quite strong because those habits know that you're going to be chipping away at them. They realize that the game is up, that you're going to take them on, you're going to clean house, shape them up, and they don't just say, oh, Ami Topo. They put up a storm. They kick up and rebel and resist, and they come up with all kinds of things. It's amazing what the ego's legions will do to keep you from doing this. They have arguments that a lawyer would just be proud to have under his or her belt. They have fears and foibles. They can throw depression at you. They can throw despair at you. They can throw a futility at you. They can throw mañana at you. You know, siempre mañana, always tomorrow. They go on and on. You're too young to do this. You're too old to do this. You're a woman, you can't. You're a man, you should have. Blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. You can't listen to any of that. And while you have those voices or that energy or whatnot, the only thing that settles them is practice. Just the regular doing it. It's very simple. You don't have to magic. You don't have to take out some incredible wisdom sword and slash away at all of them because you'll just wear yourself out. Because the one you cut off one, it's like a hydra. Cut off one, 9 other come back. But if you just sit quietly and maintain this practice and say, okay, go on, kick up a storm. I'm going to do this every day no matter what. I'm eating, I'm sleeping, and I'm doing this. All of a sudden, it just creates that space. But you got to stay at it. So I'm saying that's the stuff that inside comes. The other is the world we live in, particularly now, the pull of external distractions is just getting greater and greater and greater and harder to resist. I mean, they're finding ways to get at your consciousness, to rob it, to steal it, to lure it away, to try to get it. So whoever has your consciousness has power. It isn't really whether you buy anything if you're stimulated, but if they have your attention, they have power over you. So the biggest endangered resource, our most precious resource, is our own consciousness, our own mind, our own quiet sanity, undisturbed, unsolicited by things, that quiet, tranquil, pure, and still place that is harder and harder to protect and maintain. And so a combination of doing this practice every day, no matter what, in a still and quiet place, which is one of the meanings of our Anya, allows you to, for a moment, still or observe and not be led by that internal habit, energies and tendencies, and at the same time to allow yourself just a brief respite, a vacation from that external stimulus and noise. It's ironic that, you know, what this chapter is about, concentration and wisdom, what the Sixth Patriarch would say is that's our natural wherewithal. That's our birthright. We have it whole and complete. But if we don't attend to it internally, we lose it. And if we don't watch out what's happening outside, it gets pulled away. And it's very easy to lose it. So you don't have to do anything, but you have to create a space where you can do nothing. And in that doing nothing, you will find the richness of this original ground again. And that's the irony of these teachings. Lao Tzu talks about it. He said, everybody knows the value of what is, but few know the value of what is not. And what is not is that precious space where you just go back to that original purity and stillness and let yourself bathe in it. Now, you don't have to think, I'm bathing in it. Just let yourself be in it, and you'll feel a fullness and a light and a calm return. So I'm giving a little pitch here, since we've been away for 6 weeks. If you haven't been doing this in a regular way, come back to it. And pretty soon you'll find in some ways it's even more important than sleeping, eating, and wearing clothes. It's more vital to your sustenance. So that being said, let's go to chapter 4, which we did start last time. I forgot where we let off, so I quickly sent an email out, and to 3 or 4 students, only one remembered and responded, but that's okay. This is called sharing my brain. My brain alone can't sustain it, but if I reach out to a network, 100 people can make me half. So we're on concentration and wisdom. Technically, we've gone through the first couple paragraphs, but I just wanted to read through them again to bring us up to speed, and then we're going to start really tonight on that last paragraph. So here in this chapter, and it's not for sure that the master spoke in chapters. Obviously, he probably didn't. He didn't say, oh, today's chapter 4. He just came out and started talking. The disciples that assembled these teachings put them into chapters. So in one way you could say the chapters are very helpful, and another way you could say they're kind of artificial. And you could remove the chapters and still read the text and get a lot out of it. Or you could, as an exercise, make your own chapters. You could decide, here's where a wholeness is, and I stop, and here's where something begins. In any event, we're starting here with the continuation of his discussion with this assembly. So this is still part of the platform teachings. In other words, it's called the Platform Sutra because he's sitting on a dais, a platform for the lecturing, and this is a continuing discussion that he's giving to these people that have gathered. He says, good and wise friends, this Dharma teaching of ours is rooted in concentration and wisdom. Those of you who know the Chinese, if you look, I think it's Ding and Hui, right? So that's a very simple chapter. It says Ding Hui Di Si, right? Or what's chapter? Jiang. Si. Yeah. So that's it. Concentration, wisdom. Sounds pretty simple. But you should know that these are technical terms, and they're also psychological, emotional activities. So let's unpack this a little. Don't be confused, he says, and say that concentration and wisdom are different. Concentration and wisdom are of one essence, not two. Concentration is the essence of wisdom, and wisdom is the functioning of concentration. Where there is wisdom, concentration exists right within that wisdom. And where there is concentration, wisdom exists right within that concentration. If you grasp the meaning of this, you know that wisdom and concentration are complementary and studied together. There's a lot here. Concentration is sometimes used in this tradition to talk about meditative concentration, or the fixing of the mind, or single-pointedness, or single-mindedness. Ding means really to stop, to fix. And Wei is referring to probably something closer to prajna, which is the chapter previously he devoted to what prajna is. And this is not just ordinary knowledge, but a knowledge that sees the wholeness of everything, sees the beginnings and sees the ends, and sees where things go before they get there. It's a comprehensive view of the nature of reality, and not simply a knowledge you get as part of a degree or a skill. This is a seeing, and sometimes translated as jhana, which means undivided seeing. It's a seeing that is not mediated by desires and fears and anxieties, and even an ego. It is clear seeing unmediated by any other filter. So sometimes this is called prajna jhana. He says there are one of, now two. Now the reason he's perhaps making this point, there could be a lot, but generally these are presented as part of a three-pronged, or you could say a tripod approach to, you could say, a tripod approach to, you could say 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 a tripod appro the Buddhist teaching, and this is really the essence of it. It's called sometimes called the three non-outflow learning, or the three non-outflow studies, San Wu Lo Shui. And what it means is the first one is called Shila, the second one is Samadhi, and the third one is Prajna, translated as morality, concentration, and wisdom. I mean, there's different ways to do this. And they're usually presented as a sequential developmental practice. In other words, first you begin your practice through Shila, which is ethics or morality. But morality means that you are creating a wholesome behavior with your body, speech, and mind, that what you say, what you do, and even what you entertain in your private thoughts starts to correspond with what is wholesome, leading to insight and liberation, to non-harm, ahimsa, non-harm of others and non-harming of yourself, that which produces goodness, beneficial results, and doesn't disturb your concentration or your conscience, so that you are constantly in this state of tension with guilt and remorse and second thoughts and a kind of anxiety, a free-flowing anxiety, because you're not in sync with what is correct and proper and true. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting others, you're manipulating, you're cheating, all these sort of subtle things that go on into the morality. So morality doesn't mean just simply not killing and stealing, not, being sexually improper, or getting stoned and drunk, or lying. Those are the five called Panchasila. Of course it includes that. But it's more of an attitude that gives rise to those. That's where the morality is coming from. The kind of precursors to the killing, to the stealing, which is a disturbance of your inner tranquility and not controlling very strong impulses of lust and greed and hatred and so forth. So externally it seems like it's social and behavioral, but internally it has to do with the regulation of your mind and nature and being in tune and feeling. This is the important thing. I don't mean just abstractly thinking, gee, I have anger. If I continue with this anger, I might hurt somebody. I shouldn't do that. No. There's a corresponding feeling, a psycho-emotional, physical feeling that accompanies this that allows you to tune in or tune out. And this sensitivity, this is what we call morality. It's a sensitivity to the way things are and the way you should be in relation to the way things are, so that things are harmonious and whole and not fractured, not broken, not rubbing, okay? So there's a kind of smoothness to it. When you're in this state, the conscience is clear and you feel good. You feel really good. It's not just you feel good because you got something. You feel good because you are just in the wholeness of your being and not violating your nature or messing with somebody else. Okay? So this is the ground of morality. You could see how this then becomes, in the sequence, leads to concentration, because now the mind is clear and unobstructed. It's not disturbed. It can then relax and focus without having all these second and third thoughts of what I did, what I should have done, what I might have done, sorry for what I did, trying to take back words and actions and thoughts that created waves sort of in the water. And the way this is sometimes represented poetically is it says, morality settles the waves of cravings and desires. And those waves, once settled, allow things to be reflected perfectly. And so that when the waves are settled, you have the still water, which is now the concentration, the second one. So concentration comes out of putting your nature into that moral space. And then the concentration reflects things as they really are, which is wisdom. So you can see they're represented as Shila, then leads to the Samadhi or concentration, which then naturally produces the wisdom. So the question is, how moral is moral enough? How many precepts do you need to take to be moral? He doesn't quantify. He never quantifies. He would consider whatever you need to get there is enough. Where you're getting to. If you're getting to some sort of external sense that everybody respects me and I'm right with everybody, that's okay. But that's not wisdom. That's just non-harming. It's kind of being a good person, and that's good. But if you want to have the wisdom of a Buddha, then your morality has to be what he calls self-nature morality, essential nature. Your nature has to be completely moral in the sense that you are at all times and in all places not moving off your true mind, your true original nature. So there's no amount of rules and regulations that can guarantee that. It's a disposition. It's an inner sense of wellness and wholeness. And only you can determine where that's at. He actually, in the previous chapter, he says, if your mind is straight, right on, totally correct, you don't have to take any of them. But if you don't get your mind in that place, I would say the converse is true. No matter how many you take, you won't be there. Because you can just keep adding and adding and adding, and you're not addressing the root. You're just dealing with the branch tips. The root has to go back to there. So that's why he says, when the mind is made straight, why toil following these rules, these ethical codes? But he's also saying, when the mind is made straight, you are naturally following all of them without even following them, because they're natural to you. That he considers to be virtue. It no longer has a mark because it's so natural. Doing right, holding precepts has a mark. But this doesn't have any mark at all. It's very, very natural. This is pure, natural, moral goodness that is so second nature to you, you don't even have to think. So when he asked in the previous passage, what is that face before a thought of good or evil arises? That's the ground you want to be at. So you start, though, if you're not there, then you start with taking the precepts. And you take them and you hold them to guide you to a place where you can sort of ride the bike no-handed, so to speak. So if you start riding the bike, you need at least I needed training wheels, or I would topple over. But once I figured out how to balance, my dad lifted the training wheels up 6 inches, which meant if I leave, oop, I got it, oop, I got it. And then one day the training wheels were gone. Whew. But it came from doing the training wheels at first. Once you find your natural balance and harmony, you don't need the training wheels anymore. But don't go there too quickly. So it's a parallel. Okay, so he's saying this is a standard sequence, but he's offering an idea here that, in fact, at the deeper level, which he's teaching, which is called the direct teaching, the direct pointing, he says, and that goes to our question here, when you are in that moral ground, you are simultaneously in total pure concentration and simultaneously and non-dual in wisdom. The three are not three, they're one. Because done fully, each one blends and merges with the other. It's a single substance, a single expression. Truly, if your mind is in that place where there's no leaving your essential nature, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, that, he says, is concentration. Concentration is the unmoving equanimity in the face of many things where you don't make mistakes, and yet you're fully responsive. Whoa. That's what he calls concentration. Concentration, he's pointing in this chapter, and we're going to get at this, he's just doing a little poke at sitting meditation. He's saying it's good, but it's not enough. Your sitting meditation is only the training wheels of another meditation or concentration I'm talking about, which is, he calls a single practice meditation. Means walking, standing, sitting, even in sleep, you're in that state. Now, he's not putting down meditation, but he's saying, don't mistake this as an end. It's just a means. And what he's saying here is that at the highest level, concentration and wisdom are a single, and they test each other. You want to see how you have concentration, see how you deal with the test of life. Right? This is the interplay. And so that's why he says essence is the concentration, wisdom, and wisdom is the functioning. So here is another dichotomy he's making to help us understand. You could say wisdom is what you do. And so it's the manifestation. Concentration is presented as stillness. But what he's arguing here is what you do is a functioning, but it also shows concentration. And concentration is a stillness, but it actually works with functioning. So you can see the two in the same. Here he's saying there's an argument that some people say, well, first I have to concentrate and then I can use wisdom. And he's saying, no, at the ultimate level, they're one and the same. True concentration is true wisdom. True stillness is true functioning. Therefore, you have stillness and movement and stillness, and they're not dual. That's the true functioning. So again, he's going back to, do not think that you have to go out and master all the texts to have wisdom, nor think that you have to sit for long hours in a cold room with your legs crossed to have concentration. These are false dichotomies, and ultimately they can actually mislead you. So he's saying you need the text, for example. That's where he says they're complementary below. Remember, they're studied together. So you need the wisdom text. Here's a wisdom text to help guide you in your practice and your concentration. But you need the concentration to open up and penetrate the wisdom text. They become one and two. You test your concentration by what you do. And what you do shows whether you have concentration. So it works together. The Great Master Hui, the 10-time master, also dealt with this problem when he was teaching. There was, again, a split. People were doing extreme periods of long concentration and meditation practice and saying, just sit, don't bother with books. Look at the Sixth Patriarch, he was illiterate. And then there are other people who are saying, no, you have to have wisdom, and sitting is just getting into states, altered states of consciousness, and you need to have wisdom. Wisdom is more important, so study and memorize the text. And Hui said, you're both right and you're both wrong. If you meditate without wisdom, you'll go wrong. It's like the way he described it was, you'll be walking blind. You'll be walking, but it's blind. If you just study, but you don't practice this concentration and work on the mind ground, you'll be sterile. So he says practice without the wisdom is blind, and the wisdom without the practice is sterile. So you need both of them together. Sometimes it's represented as a great story. You've probably all heard about the two, there's always men. I should, it's always two guys. Okay, so it's two guys. It's, my apologies. That's a story. Maybe they're two guys because they couldn't live with anybody else and they were living together. That might explain why they're two guys. But one was blind and one was a cripple. And the house caught on fire. And the blind man started to panic. He says, I can't get out of here. I can't see where the fire is and where it's not. And the cripple says, well, I can see where the fire is, but I can't walk. And so, the light bulb came on, and the cripple says, well, why don't I crawl on your shoulders, and you tell me where to go, and together we'll get out of the house. So the blind man's got the strong legs, but he doesn't have the eyes. The cripple's got, and the cripple's got the eyes, but he doesn't have the legs. So, of course, if I wanted to make it into one of those ethnic jokes I grew up with, they were Polish or Irish, where I happen to be, and you'd say, well, of course, the cripple got on the bottom, and the blind man was on top, and they died. So it's the other way out, and they got outside the house. And so this is an example that's used to sort of illustrate in a memorable way the blend of study and practice, that you need both to get out of the burning house, so to speak. Anyhow, that's where this is going. This is also pointing to something that he's going to get at again and again and again, that all dharmas, whether it's sutra study, bowing, sitting meditation, precepts, none of them are are ends in themselves. They're all means to something other than themselves. And so they're all just rafts that you use to get from one place to another. If you're already there, you don't need the raft. And Dharma Master Hui Neng, in his Chan talks, really stresses his point. He says, you don't even need Chan or sitting meditation if you are thus and moving and really clear about the way things are. If you're not, then you pick up one of these things to help you get to that original state, and whatever you need is where you're deficient. So you don't have to do them all, but you have to do the ones that are critical for your development. For example, if you are really unclear and really living a harmful lifestyle, hurting yourself or others, your primary dharma zor is going to be morality and shila. You're going to have to get some discipline over your body, mouth, and mind, or nothing's going to happen. But if that's the case, you really have your moral ground established, but your mind is just scattered and totally confused, then meditation becomes the method that you need to do. If you meditate, but you really are meditating to have altered states of consciousness, to see things, to hear things, and to get powers so you can set up a shop and read people's lives and stuff like that and read their fortunes, then you need to study the texts that caution you against using spiritual practice for this. They help balance. So a good teacher will see where your strengths are, see where your weaknesses are, and reduce or modify or solidify those strengths and add to the deficiencies so you bring out a wholeness in your practice. So even which text you study, there's all kinds of different texts to study. Some of them are very beginning and seemingly simple, and others are extremely hard and profound, like the Samdi Nirmochana text is consciousness-only teaching. Wow, most of my students pull their hair out when they read it. Except the left-owned people, because their hair is already out, but the other, they just scratch their heads. It's very, very difficult to get into because it's really saying everything that we see and everything that we perceive as real is a creation and projection of our consciousness in its workings. Wow. Now everybody's, yeah, I get it. No, we don't. You get it, you get it intellectually, but behaviorally, we don't operate like that. We still think that what I see is what's really going on. And what I don't see is balderdash or superstitious. We still have these paradigms that we lock ourselves in with our use of consciousness. So to come to that text, it's not just an intellectual kind of whoop, but it's a psychological one. So people read the text, they get it, but then they go back out again and get all afflicted. So there's a range of texts that you can use. Each of them can be complementary and used to correct your state. So he says, students of the way do not say that these two are different, either with concentration preceding and producing wisdom, or wisdom preceding and producing concentration. Holding this view implies the Dharma is dualistic. And this is one of his major themes, non-dual, bu-ar. If you speak good but are not good at heart, then your wisdom and concentration are useless because they do not align with each other. Now he's getting very specific. This he's talking about they measure each other. If you're good, speaking good means you're eloquent, you're kind of brilliant, you can razzle-dazzle. It's very impressive. But inside, it's not the same. Inside, there's greed and seeking and fighting, wanting to be noticed and seen to be number one, competition, jealousy, envy, even saying things that you know will move people, but not move them to spiritual insight, but move them to like you more and not like somebody else more, or move them to follow you and make offerings to you. Or you use it to move them against somebody else. You create schisms by this language. This is very skillful. And he says, on one hand, you can talk really eloquently, and you can even seem to be speaking true principle, but your actual behavior doesn't go there. It doesn't go there. And sometimes people don't notice. Now, over time, people will notice, because you can fool some of the people some of the time. How's it going? Fool all of the people. You can fool all of the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Got it. So the same thing here is, you might pass for a while, but pretty soon over time, as the Chinese say, there's a kind of chengyu that says, when the road is long, you know the horse, or the car. You get a horse that looks great, really, and 10 miles down the road, it doesn't show, the paint that was on there comes off, and you see oh, this is a painted horse. It's really quite old, and it's starting to limp and hobble. And then sometimes the horse doesn't look so good. And you're down 100 miles, and this horse is hanging in there. It's really strong. So the expression, only when the road is long do you know the horse, only when a life is true or long do you know the person. So you can't judge by the first impression or the first appearances. You have to watch over time. Is this a true person? Are they consistently true? The one that Shu Yun used to use, actually I think this may be from Han Shan. I can't remember. But he said the cultivator of the way is like the evergreen tree. Winter, spring, summer, fall, always green. Never changes its color through the changing seasons. I really like that imagery. The person of virtue is the same way. Their virtue is constant. When things are good, they're strong. When things aren't so good, they're strong and clear. No matter what situation comes up, you're going to hit that true note with them. They never waver. They never alter. They're responsive, but that trueness is there. What's the expression? Summer soldier and sunshine patriot. It's from one of the childhood poems I remember. Summer soldier is someone who's valiant and brave and courageous in the summertime, but when the weather changes, they want to go home. And when hardships come, they're no longer there. Sunshine patriot is I'm for whatever I'm loyal to when things are going well, but then on hard times I bail out. This fickle character is the opposite of virtue, any event. So he's talking about most important is to have a good heart, then you can relax because what will come out is good. The worst thing is to not have a good heart and try to manage it. What do you call it? Spin doctoring yourself, right? It's like, well, you misunderstood what I said. I'm sorry you took umbrage at, Let me be clear. Let me clarify. Let me explain. On and on and on. True person doesn't have a spin doctor, doesn't do damage control. It just comes out. It's like a well-tuned instrument. It's just boom, and it hits it, and you're ready to go. So here he's kind of hitting at, too, a little bit of what was going on at his time, and also in the time of Zhi Yi. Let's say it's Berkeley, and instead of people talking about IPOs and their majors and careers at coffee shops, they were talking about their state of spiritual enlightenment and attainment. So they would go into the shops and they would talk. And you'd write a Chan poem, and I'd say, well, not bad. Look at mine, blah, blah, blah. And have another cup of tea, another cup of coffee. There's nothing wrong with coffee and tea, don't get me wrong. But the conversation was to show off, to show your literary prajna. And you did this by writing verses or essays. And even, having contests with each other or one-upsmanship with these. There's famous stories about this. This is called the flowery wisdom, flowery prajna. And what he's saying here, he's hitting at this. He's saying, you can do that, but it really counts where's your mind and heart at. And if your mind and heart is really where it's at, you don't even need to say anything. You don't need to write a verse or whatnot, because you'll be true in and of yourself. So there's this kind of split. And then at the same time, while people were doing this, it's called Koto-chan. I don't know how to translate Koto-chan. What's Koto? Head-mouth-chan. That's good. Head-mouth. Head-mouth-chan. Everything's empty. I'm unattached. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, this coffee is cold. What's wrong? The other thing that was happening is people were saying, just sit. You don't have to study. You don't have to have prajna. Just sit for meditation. Sit and you'll get awakened. And what Zhi Yi noticed, and I'm guessing what the Sixth Patriarch is pointing to, without a balance of the study, this then turns into really far out states of altered states of consciousness. People see things. People hear things. People think Guan Yin has come to them and spoke. People think, oh, Shakyamuni Buddha just appeared and said, in America, you're the only living Buddha. That's what happens with sitting with not having text and study to guide your states. One of the most useful of this is the Shurangama Sutra. Shurangama Sutra is really explicit. about what to look for when you have deepening states of concentration and how to balance the altered states that can come with this and as you pass through them. And the text always says, this is nothing unusual, even though it seems unusual that you can see others' thoughts or you know your past lives or so on and so on and so forth. It's just ordinary opening of the mind. However, if you think it's unusual and you think you got something, red flag, then you're down a wrong road. So it both allows for the states to happen and not deny them, but also puts them in perspective of saying, so. Just see it as ordinary and keep going. Don't attach. So that's where we got insight and outside are the same. Concentration and wisdom are the same. That's the goal. Okay. Any questions to this point? We didn't get to the new part. Oh, well. Shall we go on and just hit it a little bit? Yeah. Okay. You see, I'm doing contextual interpretation here. I'm leading you to say, well, where's he going with this? What's he talking about? Here he mentions debate. So obviously that goes to previously what he's talking about, talking good and not inside and outside. So there's obviously people who are debating. My teacher's better than your teacher. My chan's deeper than yours. I got a secret mantra and you don't. You're sitting in meditation. It's stupid. And this time all you can do is recite the name and hope Amitabha throws you a lifeline. And somebody else says, Amitabha won't throw you a lifeline. You're too decadent. First you need to da-da-da-da-da. And so Pure Land fights with Chan fights with you're studying too much. And don't study, just sit. So study sits with, and then people say, yeah, you're doing it all, but you're not holding the precepts. Only the precepts will get you there. And so the 5 schools become 5 competing wars, fighting with each other. And he says, this awakening that I'm teaching, the awakening, the self-awakening, the true awakening, is not a subject for debate. So even if you win the debate, you lose your mind, you got nothing. Winning the debate is not what it's about. If you argue about which comes first, which comes after, then you're just deluded as everyone else. If you do not put a stop to contention, oops, here it is, literally victory and defeat, win and lose, the mind of win and lose, then you only inflate your sense of self and will not break away from the 4 appearances. This is a most important line. In other words, at the most rudimentary level, don't fight and compete with anybody, especially in the spiritual. I can't say don't do it in the ordinary world because you think, well, I don't know what happened to me then if I didn't fight and compete. Well, you might try it and see. That being said, what he's talking about here is contending or fighting spiritually. And this means comparing yourself and contrasting yourself with somebody else. You think I don't do that, but we almost invariably do. Someone can sit longer than I can. I'm a little jealous. But then I dismiss it by saying, yeah, I don't sit long, but my mind is pure when I sit. I'm sure their mind is all over the place when they sit long. So we do this. That's all fighting. And you can fight with yourself. You can say, I came Friday night, I sat, I didn't get enlightened. There must be something wrong with me. I'm no good. I'm inferior, blah, blah, blah. And fighting with yourself is also a form of contention. You don't want to go too soft and just say, well, whatever you do is okay. You're already a Buddha. You don't have to do anything. Or you don't want to go, I can't do anything because I can never get it. I'm inferior. Other people are better and so forth. This is all fighting. It's all fighting. So hubris and arrogance and self-deprecation are 2 forms of the same fighting. So you have to be careful. This is what he's talking about. So you can't fight with yourself and you can't fight with others. Now, fighting doesn't even have to have an external thing about it. It can be just a quiet voice inside that's constantly saying, I want them to like me. I'm afraid they don't like me. I'm going to do something to get them to like me. They're smarter than I am. They talk better than I do. I think they're going to get enlightened faster. Maybe they're already enlightened. How come I'm not? Blah, blah, blah. It's very subtle how this goes. That's, Emerson, as much as we don't like him to read, we don't read him anymore, says that imitation is suicide. And he's talking about, if you set your mark and your standard on imitating somebody else, you cut yourself really short. And each person is unique in the way they're going to go about doing this. Your cultivation will be your cultivation. Imitating somebody else's will not get you there. It's really funny. What you imitate, of course, is the form, the basic principles, but their style, the way they do it. You can't really follow anybody in that regard because everybody's got their unique causes and conditions. I don't know if this, I'm saying something really obvious, but it's really tricky because what you have to do then is to really listen and be true to yourself. And true to yourself I mean the bitter and the sweet. You really have to take stock of yourself as yourself, not in what other people think of you or what you'd like them to think of you or what you'd like to think about yourself or what you'd like to project about yourself. There has to be this almost bittersweet, brutal honesty of just saying, here I am, this is what I am, and this is the ground I have to work on. And then you quietly go ahead and do it, whether anybody pays any attention or not, or whether even there's marks that you're getting somewhere or not. You just say, this is the ground, this is what I cultivate, this is where I go, and I just do it all the time. Whether somebody's behind or ahead, I don't notice, because it doesn't help me, and it doesn't hurt me. Their getting ahead doesn't hurt me, their being behind doesn't help me. It's just me, my stuff. I deal with it. Once you get there, actually, progress comes pretty quickly. I mean, it actually comes as quick as you can let go of what's false. But as soon as your mind and your attention go outside, not only does it not advance you, but you actually neglect the ground given you to till. You don't till it, you don't cultivate it. And so it just ends up, there's one expression that I like, it's like pouring water on rocks. Hoping the rocks will absorb the water. They don't. It's the same thing. When you're fighting and competing, you're pouring water on rocks. There's nothing that's absorbed. It doesn't go in because it's already hardened out, but, anyhow. So he says, good and wise friends, what are concentration and wisdom like? They're like a lamp and its light. If there's a lamp, there is light. Without a lamp, there's darkness. The lamp is the essence of the light, and the light is a functioning of the lamp. Although they go in two different names, fundamentally they're identical, and the phenomena of concentration are also thus. And that'll lead us to this next part, which is a very important section, where he's going to talk about, he calls this single practice samadhi, and move away from concentration being one thing, wisdom being another. Now, you might think what I said at the beginning about keeping up a daily practice might be contradictory to where he's going here, because on one hand, now I'm encouraging you to do sitting practice every day, and he's saying, the single practice samadhi. The way I would come at this is, and I think I've already said it, without the daily practice, without the beginning, you don't get to the single. You can't just begin with a single practice samadhi. At least I couldn't, and I haven't met anybody who really could. Even my teacher and my teachers, who I consider to be very exemplary in their cultivation, began with these basics and practiced them until it became second nature, so that walking, standing, sitting, lying down, they were naturally always in this state of ease and trueness. But they went through many years, and if I understand them right, they said many lifetimes, where they were doing these basics until they became second nature. So I think for all of us, at the stage, at the beginning, it's really important to both do this sincerely and devotedly, single-mindedly every day, with the understanding that it isn't ultimate, it isn't the thing. So you have to do it at the same time, not be attached to it, not think that this is enough only, or that it will have some special state that comes from it. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a very tricky kind of thing. You just do it and forget you're doing it, but you have to do it. This is the thing here, because a lot of people can read this text and think, wow, there's nothing to do. He's talking about Wu Wei, no doing. Don't follow the rules. Where your steps are true. You don't have to sit in meditation. That's the second line of the one before. And then people make the mistake of just not doing anything. And, but that's not the not doing. That's the not doing that doesn't result in anything. There's a not doing that results in a fully awakened state, and there's another not doing that results in blowout. I don't know how to explain it. So, Wu Wei means you do it without trying anymore because it's second nature. But not doing, the wrong not doing, means you don't do anything. You just sit there like a mushroom. And dust gathers and mold forms, and all your bad habits just get deeper and worse. And you say, oh, I'm Wu Wei, I'm doing nothing. Well, you could try with eating. So, right, you could just not eat and think I'm doing not eating. But then you'll starve. So the goal of Wu Wei is not to do nothing, but it's to do nothing with no attachment, with no motive, no agenda. So you're constantly, that's the non-doing that's liberating, not the non-doing that's stagnating. But people mistake this and they think, I'm already enlightened, I'm already a Buddha, there's no rules to follow, and then they don't actually cultivate. And the water never goes into the rocks. There's a Saprangama that says you're cooking sand hoping to get rice. You're cooking and cooking and cooking, you never get it because it wasn't rice to begin with. So you have to begin at this place and really do it vigorously, really do it single-mindedly. And after a while, you get to non-doing because everything is this. So there's no doing of it. Kind of paradoxical. Questions? I have to apologize. When I get 6 weeks off, I do non-doing. I do a lot of non-doing as much as I can. It took me a while to get to non-doing because my friend who lives with me programmed my phone. I have a phone, not on me, and he programmed the phone so that every time something happened in the world, whether my niece was texting me, whether a bomb went off someplace else, whether the stock market did this, or whether there was a cloud spotted off the coast of California, my thing would go beep, beep. And so because my sister was really sick and I was, had that there to get emergency messages, I'd be sitting in meditation. It was in my pocket. And I said, call if you get in the hospital or something like that. But then all of a sudden, and it was beep and buzz simultaneously, vibrate. So I'm really going, this thing would go and And so finally he came back and said, please turn that thing off. And then after that, I started to go deeper and deeper. And for me in my practice now, because I use words and language so much, my meditation turns into a real wordless place. It happens in Maine, too, when I go to Maine. I just get into the kayak, get in the water, don't take any books or anything like that, and I just spend the day with some nuts, the loons. Nuts meaning eating nuts, the loons meaning the birds. Okay. And I forget about words and language. They seem really stupid and irrelevant. And, if you go for a long time in the wilderness and you don't talk, as soon as you open your mouth, you sound really dumb to yourself. And so, the last 5 or 6 weeks, I got about 3 weeks where I could, after the phone and everything was shut off, and then when I come back, I fumble to find words that have any purchase with anything. It's just like, why am I talking? And I said, well, okay, we could just sit here for an hour and a half, and then, but no, you got to talk a little. So we can just read the text, but you got to explain a little. And I think, well, I don't have any wisdom to explain the text, so why would I even talk? And it's like, well, then nobody would come. And I said, well, that would be non-doing. But then what would they be doing on Friday? They'd be at a Super Bowl party in San Francisco. Whoa, no, it's better they come here and listen to me fumble over my words and go there. And this is, it goes on and on and on. So here you are, here I am fumbling. After a few weeks of this and teaching, the words start to come back, and then I can't shut that off. So now I'm sitting and blah, 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 so it's back and forth. I haven't made them non-dual yet, so I'm still working on it. So tonight was the first lecture, a little awkward, some rambling digression, but next week maybe a little different, a little better, maybe not. So good to see you all back. We will continue every Friday night in this format, but I really encourage you to keep a daily practice going as much as you can. And unplug as often as you can from as many things as you can. Okay, no more questions, announcements, anything? Thank you. It's good to be back. Truly, it's good to be back. I mean, you can go different places to sit, but I don't know if you notice, when you come to a place like this, there's a little extra energy in the atmosphere. That makes it a lot easier. Whatever that is, and you should be clear that you're bringing some of that to it. It's just not here and you're sucking it up. You're actually here generating it, and it's mutually bouncing back. There's a kind of synergy that happens. So the way place helps you, but you help the way place. That's non-dual. So consider it your home away from home. A place you come that's your true home, or the portal to your true home, as you were all just passing through. So, but good to see you all back and healthy. We're going to do the transference in English. And I could also say, take care of your health. There's a lot of coughing I hear going around. So if you want to, you can suck on lozenges during the meditation. It's not sweet dew, but it will keep you from coughing. Do you know the transference in English enough that we don't have to pass it out, or would people like to?
I'd like.
So we'll copy. Anybody else? Copy. Copy in the back. Okay.
Also, at the end of the class, we could use help moving a couple of chairs and tables, so if you're able, we'd love to have your help.
Where are you moving them to and for?
Just the red chairs to the dining hall.
Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Ding li san bao.